Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to centre stage the Chief Marketing Officer for Best Western Hotels and Resorts, Dorothy Dowling.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to host this panel of successful women leaders. Crystal mentioned earlier about GPT acquiring Winnet in August of this year, and our goal is really to harness the power of Winnet, harness the power of the brand to provide main stage women in leadership content to all of our GBT events. So before we begin, I wanted to start with some food for thought. Michelle Obama is a woman who I have great admiration for, and she had this quote that spoke to women. She said, we should always have three friends in our lives. One who walks ahead of us, who we look up to. One who walks beside us, who is with us on every step of our journey. And then one who we reach back for and bring along after we've cleared the way. So now, our panel of powerful women who have walked ahead of many of us and who are going to inspire us with their words of wisdom. So let me introduce the panel to you. We have Heike Berlenbach, the Senior Vice President of Sales of Lufthansa and Hub Airlines and the Chief Commercial Officer. We have Daniela Schade, who is the Managing Director of Accor Hotels. And we have Emma Wilson, the Vice President of Marketing from Sabre. Ladies, will you join me on stage? So I'd like to provide you with a little more content on these three powerful women that we have before us today. But I didn't want to go through their resumes because they are lengthy, but I wanted to give you some thoughts in terms of the conversations I've had with them. So I wanted to start with Heike, and I had three words that I wanted to describe her as. The first is an explorer, because she is someone who has gone through trails that many of us have not, and is blazing a lot of those trails and paths forward. She's courageous, and she's a globalist. Daniela. She's a pedigreed travel executive, but she is truly the definition of a self-made woman. She has defined her career and really established her own path forward. And Emma, who I've enjoyed many conversations with, because she's one of the most authentic women I have ever spoken to. And I think she's going to bring a different story and perspective to our audience today. So let's get started. Heike, maybe we can start with you. And you can share with us with what your company is doing to foster the professional growth and development of female employees.
In our company, in Lufthansa, diversity, and not only diversity men and women, but diversity in a more general perspective is very important. It's on top of our agenda, and concerning women, we do a lot there. We support young women on their career track. We open publicly all management positions so people can apply, even if they don't really have a network. We have mentorship programs, and we really try to do a lot in order to support young women in order to reach out for the stars.
Okay. Emma, would you like to share with us a little bit about Sabre and maybe one of these women who might have paved the way forward for you?
Yes, I know Heike from a while back from my time at Lufthansa, and certainly have followed your career with inspiration. So at Sabre, we're doing pretty well. So 40% of the workforce is women. At that top line number, that sounds okay, but when you start to break it down, particularly on the hierarchy levels, the devil's in the detail. Having said that, there's 2 women on the board, 2 women on the executive team, but I'm particularly interested in the things that we're doing really in the day-to-day frontline operation to tackle some of that inherent bias. That can be when we're hiring, making sure that there's a candidate slate has to have women represented, but also on the selection committee, there's always women represented. There's lots of data and statistics that help fight some of that unconscious bias. For example, in pay rounds or merit raises, you're presented with a lot of neutralized data to make sure that you're making fair decisions. I think socially as well, it's important. I've seen a shift where before social events might be around drinking in the pub, certainly in London. I've seen a shift to more activities that enable working mums to participate, and that has certainly changed the culture of how inclusive we can be.
Wonderful. Daniela, would you like to add some perspectives from Accor?
So I think the content is nearly what you mentioned already, and we in Accor, we have since 6 years a platform which was called up to now WAC, Women at Accor. It's a network really of 14,000 people around the globe in all countries, in all areas. And the good thing is it's 42% men. So it's something where we said we need a platform. Meanwhile, we renamed this platform to RISE. RISE, why? Because I think RISE fits extremely well to this growing, to this rising people up. And what we do here is really to say this is a platform for networking. It's a platform for really to combat also stereotypes, to fight against it. To make them transparent, to talk about it. And it's also something where we offer mentoring program for women. We have now 900 pairs in more than 20 countries doing that kind of mentoring, and I think that helps really. And we have a clear target in numbers to have 35% women in general manager positions all over the world. That's one thing that we follow. And I think it's really extremely helpful to have a platform within the company that helps you also as a woman maybe coming new to that, to enter it and to get a kind of, I would say, entry point into that topic.
Wonderful. Those are impressive numbers.
Yeah.
Heike, I'm wondering if I can go back to you and maybe you could share with us, what do you think the biggest obstacles are to professional women in terms of moving their career along?
Well, certainly we have to accept that there's still some stereotypes in the room. So, and that is something we can probably not overcome within one generation. It probably takes 2 or 3 generations in order to overcome the stereotypes. What is typical woman? What is typical man? So there's a lot we can do in order to just prove it's not the case anymore. And therefore, I believe women in leadership positions can already showcase that there's more than just these stereotypes. So that's certainly one thing. But also, on the other hand, if we look into positioning that we have within my own area of responsibility, I'm responsible for sales across the world, and I would love to have women in managerial positions leading a group of people in the respective countries. And there are not too many applicants, so not too many women would really like to take that step. So it's also from their side not always the move outside, so they are not always as flexible, what I can understand in terms of family life and everything that surrounds them. However, that's of course one obstacle as well, because there's an opportunity, but there are not too many applicants that would like to apply for those jobs, because I would like to have a nice mix of men and women in my management team.
Yeah, of course. Danielle, you talked about the GMs in the hotel space, which has traditionally been a very male-dominated career. What are some of the things that Accor is doing to sort of break through some of those obstacles for women to actually be able to be successful in those roles?
I think one thing is what I mentioned already is the mentoring program, because that helps really women to grow, because they can come with their, I would say, normal topics and issues that they face over doing their jobs, and can ask their mentor. I think growing by learning is really a very, very good thing. Additionally, we offer trainings and coachings, helping where we have professional coaches, offering that kind of, I would say, support to them. And it's support in terms of what you mentioned, Heike. It's we will not change the world from today to tomorrow. That's very simple. We will not change something that was being built by generation of men. with now 1 or 2 generations of women changing the world. So I think it's learning how the game functions, how the game should be played, and bringing your female attributes into it and changing the game. Therefore, I think that's something that we can give by mentoring, by coaching and training and so on, piece by piece to the young women going into their positions.
Thank you. So Emma, Heike talked about the pool of candidates and not necessarily having the right source to be able to promote women. Technology faces an uphill battle. We all know about the conversations that are going on with STEM and not having enough women pursuing those kinds of careers. So Sabre, with a 40% established benchmark in terms of women in a technology-based company in leadership roles, what is Sabre doing to really create those kinds of success metrics?
Yeah, I build on Daniela's point about the availability of coaching, but also instilling belief in the new generation of talent coming through to take the space and to apply for that job. So luckily, certainly for me, there's role models all around, or even in your personal network, whether it's Tristan Smith at Agencia, Caroline Krems at Skift, Caroline Strachan's probably in the room from Festive Road. There are people there who can say, you can do this, and giving you the courage and self-belief to apply for that role that you might think you're not ready for, and therefore increase the kind of uplift of candidates across the slate.
Great. So I'm wondering, Danielle, if we go back, if you can talk about your own leadership path. I know we talked a little bit about that it is not a very typical path that you have taken to really define, as I said, the self-made woman that you have become. Could you share some of your wisdom with the audience?
So thank you for the self-made woman, but I think it describes it very well, because maybe if I look back, I took the more difficult way, because I decided first to do an apprenticeship in a hotel. And the good thing is today I'm back to the hotel branch, so it brought really something to me. No, but I'm not kidding. But this brought to me something where today I'm still really where I get nourished from, because this was my basis for, taking quick decisions, not hiding away when a problem comes, to be really intuitive in a certain situation to do things. I learned a lot of very pragmatic things. So if you would ask me today, would you do the same? I would definitely say yes, definitely. And my next station was also an operational job in a hotel. And then I decided, I'm not sure, is that the way that I really want to go? Because I felt I want something more. So really I did the next step, and then I began on my job a study, economy. So it was for 3 years. It was really a hard time, but at the same time I discovered sales. And I found exactly this is the way where you want to go. And the message that I want to give is really, even if maybe you follow a path that first doesn't show really, oh, this is a career path, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, and then you are super manager. That's really, you can find your path, and it must not be automatically, you should do X, Y, Z, but follow your path. And as I did, I found my area, the commercial area, the sales area, which I loved, and I grew up. I grew up in different companies, and today I have my dream job, that's for sure. I love my job, and I love the responsibilities, what I'm doing. So, and I can really give the advice or the recommendation to every woman, really, if you don't feel well in your job, then really think about what do you want? What is it what you want? And I think that's because if you feel it, if you have it, you will have success with what you do. And that was a little bit my way, how I found it and how I grew up, because the way, maybe how I did it, inspired my bosses to say, oh, she can maybe do a little bit more, and she can do a little bit more and a little bit more. And finally, hurrah, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, Daniela. Heike, I know when I started, I had actually used an American term as a trailblazer, and I was informed that that probably didn't translate as well to a European audience. But When I spoke with Heike, and I also reviewed her resume, she truly has gone places that many women have not. And so I'm wondering if you could share some of that wisdom of your explorer approach to your career, because I think we could all learn some things from you.
Well, this explorer part was rather my holiday places that I went to in order to really recharge my batteries and then go back to the job. I really like taking my backpack. I still like that, even today. I could go to nice 5-star hotels, relax, and lay on the beach and get nice services around. But I'd rather like to take my backpack, go on a local bus, go through Rwanda. I went through Panama, to all kinds of places in South America and in Asia. And what I learned there is really looking at how people live there, how happy they are with the basics that they have, so that I can really enjoy that there's more to life than just these complicated things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. When you then return to the job, you look at things out of a completely different perspective. And that sometimes help also to calm down and say, okay, there's also a tomorrow after today, and let's really try to rethink what's going to happen next, in order to also keep the team up and running, because we all can't really predict what's going to happen in the future, but we'd rather need to make sure that we take the right steps in order to define what should we do in order to prepare for the future, whatever is going to happen there.
Thank you. And Emma, you're from a different generation. I know when we spoke, you said to me about being on stage with obviously one of your mentors from another step in your career, but I think your story is a very relatable one, so I'm hoping you'll share authentically some of the things you did with me on the phone.
So some of the jobs I've had throughout my career probably have been a little bit too big for me. The good thing about that is I had managers who believed in you and who gave you that space, on the one hand, to multiply your strengths, do things you're good at really well, but also to make mistakes and fail miserably and painfully and have the ability to learn from those. I also have had managers who've been brutally honest with feedback, and the thing that I've learned is the power of candid feedback can really help you. It takes some getting used to be comfortable with that, but it really helps you identify your development areas and identify your Achilles heel, that one thing that might be holding you back. So having managers who are very good at giving both constructive and sometimes quite painful feedback has certainly helped me in retrospect.
So if I may, I'm going to ask Daniela to comment, because when you said you've taken jobs on that are too big for you, I'd like to get her perspective on that statement, because she had a point of view on that earlier.
I think I would give the recommendation to every woman, really, be confident what you are able to deliver, because I think that's something what I did always. I was very self-confident to say I do it, because when I was asked for my first sales job, I can remember the director asked me and said, "But you never did sales in the life before. Do you see? Are you sure that you can do it?" And I know exactly. I was inside. I was saying, "Goodness, never." Never did it. Yeah, and finally I was sitting there and say, yes, I can do it. You know what? And then I got the job and I said, oh shit, now I really have to deliver. No, but what I want to say is be confident, because and it's not a stereotype what I'm now saying, but it's I think it's still a lot of reality. If men are asked to go for the next step, to jump into the cold water, they will exactly do like that. They will say, yeah, I take the challenge, I do it, and I do not want to play sides and black and white, but they will go, yes, I do it. Even if I can only do, I don't know, 40 or 50%, I can learn the rest. And that's just a very healthy, I think, basis to grow. Women would look at it and say, ooh, I can do 80%, but I'm not at 100. You know what? That hinders yourself to grow. So my advice or my recommendation is really just do it and just try it, and also try to get, I would say, try to reach your limits always. So I can remember on situations on my job where I went to my boss and I put something in front of him and said, no, I can't do that. And then I was inside, I was, my heart was really bumping like hell. I said, goodness, my job is gone. And I had one boss, and this was for me a kind of key situation in my professional life. He packed the paper, looked at it, and then he threw it back and said, bought it. And I was standing there and said, yes. You know what? And that's what I also want to give. So jump into it, be confident that you can do it. If you finally have inside the feeling, yes, I can, so just say it and do it and jump into it. And on the other side, if you have it, really try to reach your limits. Yeah? Take the room that you have.
So always take those jobs that are too big for you. So, Heike, I'm wondering if you can help us, because we all in this MarTech world, we're faced enormous change. And I know our previous speakers talked about change leadership and how we really live in that world today. But in the airline industry, I think they're on that bleeding edge of how technology is continuing to redefine that space. So how do you really manage that pace of change and bring your leadership to helping others in that thought process?
Well, you can imagine I'm talking about distribution strategy for the last 2 years. And to be honest, before that time, I had not a clue about what's really happening on the distribution side. When we provide our products to the agencies and to the GDSs, I had no clue what was happening behind the scenes. So therefore, that was, of course, something where I had to learn what's going on there, because I was challenged by customers, by agencies, by all our business partners, to explain why we are doing this big step and what we are doing. So we had to learn. I had to learn myself, because I had to convince my whole sales team, women and men, of course, to follow down that road, so that we can all be very confident in the way we position our ideas and where we believe we are heading to in the industry. And that is really something that you then need to learn. How do we find out what is happening on the technology side? So it's about lifelong learning. You really have to dig into details, even if you don't really have an idea about what's going on that technology field. You need to make sure that you understand it, so that you can translate it and explain it to others. And it's even today a task, and it's a challenging task for the teams to talk about the distribution part, because there's so much technology behind, and there are different areas of technology, different connections that need to be explained. But I believe, since where we are today, I'm quite confident also with my team, with the sales team, because we really digged into it, and we got a good understanding what is happening there. So also a salesperson that probably doesn't have an idea about this kind of technology, you can learn that, and you can even be convincingly on a stage talking about this topic.
Excellent, thank you. Well, Emma, you have a marketing role in a technology company, so you truly are on the bleeding edge of really managing that pace of change. What kind of guidance would you offer to the audience in terms of how to stay ahead and manage some of that change leadership in your role?
Well, it's a 60-year-old technology company, but with that comes the insight around how to do things at scale. So having some good, like you say, behind-the-scenes knowledge of what it takes to do this new technology at scale, but also looking at the companies who are building new products off our platform and engaging with them. I'm a very early adopter of any kind of app. It sends my husband crazy when the fulfillment doesn't quite work. But like keeping abreast with new ideas very early on, as well as from my role looking at the more established technology that's doing it at scale.
Okay, great. So we're going to move into a lightning round, which is really about offering some advice. If you could go back a couple of decades in your career, what is that advice that you would have liked to have in your ear? Let's hear from you first, Daniela. 15 seconds or less.
Yeah, accepting to making mistakes and learn out of them. What I said before, taking your room and learn where your limits are, and being really confident and self-confident. That would be my recommendation.
Heike, what about you?
I would say learn to change perspective, jump into the shoes of the others in order to be able to explain to them and discuss with them also out of their perspective, and just go for it.
Emma?
build yourself a support network, both personally and professionally, and really use them in day-to-day coaching, but also to help you at home as well.
Okay, all great tips. So the final question is, this audience that's sitting with us today, what would be the ask that you would make each one of them in really building the future for women in our industry? Daniela, let's start with you again.
Okay, taking diversity as the key driver of performance, what we do with RISE, and diversity not only in terms of gender, but also in terms of generation/age and cultures. Bringing that together, that's the driver for success.
Wonderful. Heike?
Forget about the stereotypes and look at diversity as a rich part and enriching part of your company.
Emma, let's close with you.
Do skip levels often, so go down a couple of levels in your organization, talk to the talent, learn about their higher purpose, and encourage them.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, we started a conversation today with a quote from Michelle Obama about looking up to others and being inspired by others and learning from those. I hope you would join with me in thanking these women panelists, because I have enjoyed the conversations I've had. I've certainly been inspired by all of you, and I'm looking forward to this being a continuing part of our program of work at GBTA. So thank you. Please join me.
Good afternoon. Hello, come back. Come. On behalf of Oakwood Worldwide, I'm delighted to be sponsoring the GBT opening reception tonight. Before we all go off for that well-earned cocktail, I know some of you are already trying to make your way. Not time yet. Hang on, folks. I'd like to take you on an experience. Please close your eyes. I can see you guys in the front row. Close your eyes. Imagine you have just arrived in LA. You can feel the warm sun on your face, the gentle sea breeze from the Pacific Ocean. Hear the swaying of the palm trees. Can you hear it? Congratulations, you have just arrived outside your Oakwood apartment. Open your eyes. You have 1 hour before meeting your work colleagues at James's Beach Bar, and you are very tired from your flight from Europe. Not to worry, you were smart, and you booked an Oakwood apartment. Clever people. At Oakwood Worldwide, we offer end-to-end apartment solutions through our own branded properties or through our global network of partners. This includes sourcing, the latest technology and booking process, mobile applications, invoicing in local currency, 24-hour customer service and support with compliance and security and risk. Therefore, take hold of the momentum and join us on a journey and choose Oakwood Corporate Apartment Solutions for all your extended stays. Myself and team, Emma and Tim, who are somewhere standing up, thank you guys. We'd love to speak to you during the conference, and we look forward to seeing you in the bar tonight. Thank you.